so next up, we have using BentoSpace at the Litchfield Historical Society, and your presenter is Linda Hocking. Like many historical societies, the collection at Litchfield include artifacts and archives, many of which are related. As a way to help their researchers better discover the rich and related holdings they steward, Litchfield Historical Society launched BentoSpace, an online search portal that produces results from their instances of ArchivesSpace and CollectionSpace. Linda will present about why they felt there was a need for this type of tool and demonstrate how it works and discuss responses to it. Ready?
Yes. How do I get it into, is this a Mac? I'm not a Mac.
I'll do it. Sorry. I'm making it work very hard today.
Just click it to advance. Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's going to sound familiar. I can see why Mary and I were together on the schedule. I'm going to talk to you today about a project at the Litchfield Historical Society to provide our patrons and staff with better access to our collections. So first, I'm going to offer some background on the organization to provide context for the decisions we made for this project and explain why this project was necessary. Founded in 1856 as the Litchfield Historical and Antiquarian Society, we were incorporated and changed our name in 1893. We began collecting artifacts and papers around that time. There were a few part-time employees who accessioned collections and ledgers and described them in card catalogs. We had catalogs for donors, photographs, which of course were separated from the collections they came in with, manuscripts, artifacts, and books, among other things. Between that time and 2002, when I started working at the Historical Society, at least 5 different numbering systems had been used for incoming donations. You had to know what accession books or catalogs to search through to find information for about what you were looking for. Other than a few prominent collections added by an early curator to the National Union Catalog of Manuscript Collections in the 1950s, documents were described in an item-level card catalog. You could tell how important the board and staff considered the collection by how many cards there were describing it. The ones displayed here pertain to a collection of correspondence between British poet laureate John Masefield and local resident author and educator Dorothy Bull, and they offer a rare example of a biographical card. The card catalogs were added to well into the 1980s. There was no database for the archives when I was hired, but the Society was using Past Perfect as a membership database. So for a time, I tried to make the system work for books and other bound materials. But it was soon apparent it would not meet our needs, particularly for creating finding aids. So we began searching for funding and eventually received a Clear Hidden Collections grant and an NHPRC basic cataloging grant in 2008. This is before ArchivesSpace, of course. So these enabled us to install Archon, create a processing manual, and start to create finding aids with varying levels of description. Meanwhile, on the museum side, artifact description had been migrated from card catalog entries like this one to a proprietary database called I/O. This system was available in-house on one computer maintained by the curator. That meant that only the curator could access artifact description. So our paper collections were hidden to anyone outside the building, and our artifacts were hidden to most people in the building as well. So we had experiences with researchers that firmed our resolve that things had to be more accessible. Someone read a letter written by Mabel Seymour to her daughter Delia that stated, "We have a Mr. Catlin, a miniature painter, in our chamber. I certainly would have you paint with Mr. C. It would be of great advantage to you. He's taking a likeness of your grandfather and a perfect resemblance." Well, that researcher had no idea, and neither did I at the time, that we had a portrait miniature of Moses Seymour, the grandfather, in our artifact collection from that same year. Similarly, a mourning ring for Clarissa Champion, described by her mother, was in collection storage. Anyone who asked to look at it wouldn't know that it was initially enclosed in a letter from Clarissa's mother to her niece, in which she wrote, "I send you enclosed a ring, which I wish you to accept and wear in remembrance of our dear departed Clarissa. Wear it for the sake of a friend and cousin who loved you, and I think so deserved, and I doubt not has a place in your affection and remembrance." Likewise, they wouldn't find we had a related artifact, a mourning miniature. Early staff had applied a curatorial view to our collections. archives and artifacts, seeing material as single items and not preserving any relationships or context between them. So we hope to rectify that. We first tried to offer integrated description by using Archon's digital repository, not just for adding digitized papers, but also for related portraits, trade signs, knee breeches, etc. We knew this wasn't a long-term solution because Archon didn't have the fields required by the curator for adequately describing artifacts and could not stand in as a museum catalog. This approach was limited to connections between artifacts and documents that either the curator or the archivist were already aware of, and it was also time-consuming to add this to our descriptive work. The success of our adoption of Archon and the interest in our collections it generated made it apparent that our artifact collection also needed to be online. So after evaluating numerous database solutions, including several which were meant to work for archives and artifacts, we in the end opted to use ArchivesSpace. Our hope was that once we could migrate Archon to the then new ArchivesSpace, that we could make the two systems work together. We were awarded an IMLS Sparks Ignition Grant for libraries to hire consultant Jesse Martinez to implement a few new tools to make this happen. Jesse installed ArchivesSpace and customized it for our use. This is the same record you saw the card catalog entry for earlier. He also installed and migrated our data from Archon to ArchivesSpace. I'm not well versed in the technology involved in the project, but these are some words Jesse provided me with to explain a little about what he did. If you're interested in the details, I have more detailed information I could share with you that Jesse gave me. In brief, he said that for ArchivesSpace, he uses a Solr search endpoint to send queries and fetch results. And for ArchivesSpace, he created a custom Solr index to use for the app. To us, what matters most is the results. The first and probably most important part of the project was a single search portal we call BentoSpace. Searching here allows users and staff to locate all collections pertaining to a particular topic, person, or place, regardless of format. So if you remember the portrait of Major Seymour and the letter to his granddaughter, you can see those appear here in a BentoSpace search. The portraits appear on the left with all of the other ArchivesSpace results, and the description of the letter is on the right where the ArchivesSpace results display. The second thing Jesse created for us was a social tagging module. We asked for this feature because many users are unfamiliar with the nomenclature that populates our catalogs, particularly the artifact catalog. The artifact database doesn't include subject terms, so offering users the chance to add terms that are common usage will enable others to locate things more easily. The initial intent was for this to be available in ArchivesSpace as well, but it wasn't feasible to develop it in the time we had to develop things under this grant. Staff has to vet contributions before they appear on the public site in this interface. We were somewhat concerned about people suggesting inappropriate terms, but it really hasn't been a problem. So this is what we get, a list like this, and then we just have to click whether to add it or delete it. Finally, Jesse created an external authority file source. As I've noted, many of the donations we receive include items that go into artifact storage, as well as documents that are added to the research library. The donors are the same, the creators and the subjects are often the same, but the curator and the archivist have to separately add the name authorities and the subject terms to their instances. So the library had been using standardized format for a long time to describe the collections, but curatorial staff, interns, volunteers had not. So there were no rules for constructing any name headings in that catalog. So being able to use the same source reduces this duplicated labor. It ensures that we have consistency in format, and it makes it easier for researchers and staff to locate what they're looking for. We are hopeful at some point that we'll have a similar system for subject and genre terms. This is the authority management dashboard where staff can bring the file from one system into the other. Unfortunately, the authority tool has been somewhat problematic. As Jesse explained it, it's a complicated system. It's fragile and it can break if either ArchivesSpace or CollectionSpace change their record structure between versions. At present, it's broken. So the need to monitor a tool for its reaction to updates or new versions is probably less impactful for larger organizations who have IT staff. It did fortunately remain operational during the pandemic when we had a big project to try to clean up our data and get everything in the systems the way it should be. So we've now had the system in place for a while, and overall it works very well. There are some quirks in the way data is pulled from each database in the search results. And to really refine a search, you need to click through to either ArchivesSpace or CollectionSpace. But overall, we're pleased that it presents our users with the idea that they should view all of our collections, artifacts, and documents as primary sources. A repository like ours that serves everyone from elementary school students to established scholars needs tools that are straightforward to use and easy to explain, and we think BentoSpace meets this goal. Thank you.